first game I ever played was a game, I think it was called Arrow, and it was on a ZX81, and it basically consisted of a thing moving along the top of the screen, and you had to time it right to fire a little thing up the screen to hit it. That would have been 1981.
That I ever played, I would say Scorched Earth, followed quickly by Ultima 7.
The first game I played was Ghostbusters 2 on the what was it? The ZX Spectrum 81. I wasn't sure what was going on. I wasn't even sure how to load up the game, and my dad wrote it down on a bit of papers, and then that's how I got into programming as well.
First game must have been Super Mario Brothers, and it's about saving the princess, I guess.
Shadow Colossus is pretty high up there, and I think Resident Evil 4, and I just like those games for the sense of atmospheres and sort of the mood they provoked. And I think the sort of the way how they make the game itself is very efficient, and it's just gorgeous to look at even to this day.
Yeah, right now I would say Journey. It kind of explores a new path in multiplayer games that I haven't really seen before.
I'm going to go with Meridian 59, which is a little bit quirky, but it was the first graphical MUD, one of the first MMOs, and it was a bit of a moment in history for me, particularly because I've been interested in online games for so long.
Mega Man 3, because it's so fucking hard, and I got this. It's the last code for the game, and it's amazing. Like the best platform game ever.
No, my favourite game is Terrican 2 on the Amiga. It's a bit like Metroid, but for people who didn't have Nintendos.
I guess yeah. Originally, I never planned to make a living out of it. I've just always been interested in making video games. Even as a child, I drew them on paper, pretending they were actual games.
I was about 6 or 7 years old. I was really young, and I started out making little tests on something called the Shoot 'em Up construction kit on the Amiga. And a couple of years later, I made I say proper games, but playable games, things with titles and actual gameplay.
I'm not doing it for a living.
Well, my background is I work in films and games as a concept artist, doing illustration work and design stuff. But I realized that in film, you design the set, but you only experience it for a very brief second, whatever's on the screen. Like for video games, what I really like about working in video games is when I design something and then recreate in 3D for the environment, I get to experience it after I make them and really walk through that space, the lights, the forms, everything like that. So it's nice to actually enjoy the things that you made and not just make something and move on to the next thing and make something else,
I didn't quite decide to make games, I kind of fell into it. I was beta testing and just playing games in general. A friend of mine was making a game, I started beta testing and pointing out lots of design flaws. And from there, once he founded his own company, he immediately wanted me to come and basically do marketing for it because I know games, I know what's good and what's bad.
Playing music, indie music. So I've always been an indie. And kindergarten teacher.
Well, my previous job, I was at Vivendi Universal on the publishing side, working at OneNet, as it was then, which was the home of Homeworld and Half-Life and all those sorts of titles. And just before that, I was at PC Magazine for a couple of years. I was the online editor there. Before that, I was at PC Gaming World, reviewing online games. I did the online game section there for probably only about 6 months. And before that, I was a security consultant.
I was unemployed and a student. And well, prior to that, I was a contractor, just doing freelance construction stuff. I was in the military for 4 years. I've owned a cafe. I've worked in restaurants. Man of many hats.
So before indie, I was getting paid much better actually, working in films and doing concept works. I was working a lot of just film design. I recently, the announced was the Bryan Singer Jack the Giant movie. I did the design for that. Spielberg next film Robopocalypse, I did design for that one. And there's I did Monster House. It's a CG movie back in the day. And just some animation here and there. And I also freelanced a lot on the side for video games in general. Yeah.
The only thing I've done is actually to work. I've helped out intellectually handicapped people writing a newspaper sort of thing and a website.
I had a few jobs, but my most recent one was I was a lecturer of game design at a college. That was really interesting because kids have got such mad ideas, and they don't know that they can't do everything. So the name came to us whilst I live near a street called Cooper Street, and I was walking down there one day and I thought, oh, Cooper Street, and then I thought of King Koopa, Bowser, and then I thought, oh, he's the boss baddie of a game.
Dennaton Games. Dennaton is a tweak of Dennis and Jonathan.
The name of the studio is RedBedlam, and the story behind the name is when I was at Vivendi Universal, the management team, I didn't like this, but they chose to hire a big consultancy, a big management consultancy to find a name for a new thing, and they came back with Flipside, and it really didn't work for the French market or the German market, and frankly they wasted a hell of a lot of money. So I resolved that when I set up my company, we wouldn't do that, we'd just sit down for half an hour, do a bit of brainstorming, and come up with something, and we literally just wrote down a bunch of words, and we started Googling them just to see if they existed or not, and we found one that didn't exist and was unique. That'll do us. And that was the history of the company. We quite like it though, because it kind of fits us. It's a little bit crazy and a little bit weird. It was a good fit.
The name is called Adhesive Games. It's not that fancy. It's just our animator, Chris Lawley. He's just like, we're thinking of different ways. What should we name the game? What should the theme be? But I think Adhesive Game came out because we want to just make games that are very addictive and, you know, it's just like stick with people. So Adhesive just like a fun way to just call our company.
Our studio's out of Kotka, Finland. And there's a little island off there called Kukouri, which actually has Fort Kukouri, and we decided to call that, you know, we wanted to go with that, Kukouri.
First game ever made. I mean, Project Offset was probably the first indie game that we put together. I wasn't the one of the founder, but I joined early on after seeing their release of a video. It's kind of like a fantasy game. I don't know if you guys ever heard about it, but it has a great engine technology that was built by Sam McGrath, and I was just blown away by what he did with the motion blur, real time, everything at the time. So I joined up on his team.
Keyboard drums with fucking werewolf, and it's the music video game for our band. It's pretty much like a WarioWare kind of style where you have to play for the whole song.
That I ever made, it would be East India Company with Nitro Games. It was the first one I actually ever did something on.
Yeah, I would say the first game I could ever finish making is called Mod Archive Story, which is about this chat channel where basically I learned about a lot of my music background is from that place. So Mod Archive is also this cool website where you get module files, which is this tracker music thing. If it's like games that I haven't finished, I started out trying to make huge RPGs and adventure games that I could never finish. I guess it's a bit of a common story among indies sometimes. But those doesn't count. I don't even remember what the first one was.
It was the first one with the start and an end was a game called, there was a few, but the first one I remember mostly was Captain Wiener, which was you played this tiny little dot who just ran around levels collecting stars, and then he'd get to the exit. And then I made a sequel straight after called Henry, which probably exists somewhere online.
That's interesting. The studio is mostly made up of people that I have worked with at some point in my life. One of the good things about setting up my own company was that I could kind of cherry pick who I was going to work with. And so I went and found a bunch of people that I'd had some success with earlier in my career. Our marketing director I met at Vivendi Universal. Most of our programmers seem to have come through us fairly organically. But one of the advantages of building MMOs is that you're fairly high profile. Lots of people want to work at an MMO studio, and so we had no shortage of people trying to come and knock on the door, some of whom you have a very good relationship with, and so that's how it kind of works. You end up building up. It's nice having a little indie studio because you've got a bunch of mates that you work with, and it's very much a little family business feel to it. Everybody gets on with each other famously. We have games nights, and it's a much more enjoyable lifetime than when I was working at VU and it was all a little bit faceless and corporate.
It's mostly just me, but I know lots of really talented people. I work. My girlfriend works with me doing concept arts, and she also tests the games and comes up with ideas and tells me when I'm doing things wrong. But also, she contributes to the design. I work with a musician called Mr. Pineapple, who's just brilliant. He's got every instrument in his house. He's an acoustic player, acoustic musician. He's got drum kits. I think he's got a didgeridoo. I think, and he can do anything from chip tunes to didgeridoo music.
It's Jonathan Söderström, also known as Cactus by most people, and I did know his twin brother, and we started like hanging out and drinking beer, and yeah, we started talking about doing a game, so we did.
There's 7 of us in total. We have 3 programmers, 2 like artists, and then the CEO who's handled business, and then myself doing marketing, PR, stuff like that. Basically, all through friends, like knowing someone knew someone who knew someone, and kind of all gathered together. Some of us actually been working together for about 5 years, I'd say.
So the core team, when it first started, was 4 or 5 guys, and we have grown since then, since we got full budget and funding now for Hawking. So it's kind of hard to call us an indie team anymore. We're at 21 people. But on the first video that was released, we had 6 guys and 3 interns, so it was 9 total people at that time. But yeah, we definitely grown since then. So I don't think I can name everyone, but the core founder would be me, myself, and there's Christopher Lawley, our animator. There's Jonathan Cruiser, the main programmer, who's a genius. He can build a whole game engine by himself. There's Dave Wing. He's our 3D artist / game designer, and now he's basically our lead designer now on the project.
It's a bit tricky. Like, I mainly work on my own, but I just ask random friends to help me with stuff. Like, I have a really cool community where people submitted like photographs for my new game, and I have a lot of friends who always want to do some music work. So I would say I'm a one-man team, but I get a lot of help from various places. Like, I also work with partners, producers, and yeah. So the game is called Knut Underground, and it's kind of continues the Knut and Within a Deep Forest games. Basically like a huge adventure exploration platformer with some slight RPG elements. It's very story based, and a lot about like my existential questions about life and difficult things like who are we, why are we here, what's the meaning of life, and then I also really fail to figure that out even in the game.
We're working on The Missing Ink right now. It's a multi-platform MMO. It's about the stories of mankind, the myths and lore and legend of Western culture, from Norse mythology to the Brothers Grimm fairy tales, to cowboy stories, to pirate stories, to zombie stories, to sci-fi stories, and they've all been slightly corrupted, hence The Missing Ink. The role of the player in this MMO is to go through conducting all these quests and taking part in all these adventures, just fixing the stories and just making sure that actually the princess is supposed to be rescued from the troll and not the other way around.
So the game we're working on is called Hawking. It's a sort of mech combat FPS free-to-play game coming out in December 12th end this year, and it's very much an homage to the old mech games we loved playing when we grew up, like Mech Warrior. There's the Virtuon in the arcade. You know, there's Steel Battalion. There's the Armored Core. So we just kind of took bits and pieces of what we enjoyed from those games, and you know, add on the visual style that we grew up playing. I mean, grew up watching. I really love all the old sci-fi, 80s sci-fi film like Blade Runner and Aliens. All the anime stuff like there's Ghost in the Shell, Tekken Kinkri, Akira, Cowboy Bebop. You know, there's just all that sort of pop culture stuff all mixed together. So,
Tiny Troopers, that's the game that we're currently working on. It's basically, think cannon fodder on iPad or a modern cannon fodder on PC or Mac. And that's basically it. It's a top-down shooting. Lots of war, stuff like that. Great.
We're currently working on Big Sky Infinity, which is a twin-stick shooter. It's like procedurally generated, so the levels are based around how good the player's doing or how bad. The game tries to, if you're not very good, it'll help you out, but if you're as good as as me or people who made the game, then it gets really tough.
We are working on Hotline Miami. It's a top-down shooter based in the 90s. And it's super hard, like Super Meat Boy, but you don't get punished by dying, so it's like trial and error game, trying to figure out the right way to finish the level. And it's super cool, so everyone has to play it.
Minecraft. It's the staple game, isn't it? But it's I didn't play it. I bought it ages ago, back when it was really cheap, and I watched it grow. But I stopped playing it. I got lost, and I play Minecraft as I have a goal, and my goal is to build a train track going from the spawn point up north, and it's taken a very long time to do, but that's my goal. I don't play it with any enemies on. They'd only get in the way. I just travel along and get minerals or get iron and stuff, and I've got this huge train track going north.
I don't even know the name of that one. It was this kind of weird game created at some game jam, where you would have two guys who would be bros, and then you would help each other out. Like one person would fight enemies, and the other would have to push the buttons to like cheer on the guy and be like, "Oh yeah," and just "You got them, bro." And it was very random. I really need to remember what the name of that game was.
The last one was Deadlight, I think the zombie one on XBLA recently, but I love sort of side-scroller games, so Limbo, Deadlight, you know. I just saw Dust I haven't played it yet, but it looks really cool. I'm going to try that out. It's a side-scroller. It looks very cartoony, but it looks awesome.
I don't remember the name of it, but it was like kind of you're in the middle and there's like circles coming towards you, and you have to like you can just circle around, and like there's coming circles with holes in it. I don't remember the name. Oh, God damn it. I have to go home.
Bit of both. Like it's like people are trying to like define what is indie. If you have any investing, are you indie? How big is the company have to be indie? Are you indie at 7? Are you indie at 2? Are you indie at 20? It's hard. It's like people don't respond to the word indie anymore because everyone's indie.
A blessing. Because you can do whatever you want, and if you're lucky, everyone else loves it. But yeah, you can do whatever you want, and I think that's the freedom of just doing exactly what you want to do. I think that's the best thing in the world.
It's both. I mean, initially it was awesome. Actually, no, it's actually a blessing. I really can't see the downside of it yet. The only curse right now is people was basically saying, "You're not indie anymore. You're too big to be indie." But you know, to me, indie is still just the spirit. So to me, Valve is still an indie company because they control their own destiny. They don't really worry about having to answer to some big publisher out there. I mean, they just do whatever they kind of want, which is that's what I really feel. It doesn't have to be necessarily a small, poor, suffering studio. It just as long as you have a creative control over your title and no one to really answer to, really. Basically making a game that you want to make. And I think that's what we really, I think is the indie spirit. But yeah, it's been great. I mean, the community support for our game has been really awesome. We really don't have much marketing support initially. We do now, but initially it was just all through YouTube, and we got top of Reddit. It's just all fan-based, kind of viral around, so it was really cool.
It's a blessing. Absolutely a blessing. Indie means that you're calling your own shots. You're small enough to be able to take risks, because in my humble opinion, most of the bigger studios have got into a bit of a rinse-repeat cycle where they're doing an awful lot of the same IP over and over again, an awful lot of the same game mechanics over and over again, whereas indie studios are uniquely placed to be able to say, screw the risk, I'm going to try something, and that's usually where success and innovation comes from.
At the moment, I'd imagine it's a blessing. It's almost a ticket to do whatever you want. You can make any game you want, and there are always people who want to play weird games. There are always people who want to play serious games, and if you're indie, you can do any of that.
I don't know. I don't have such a strong attachment to the word. Sometimes I can feel it's very silly to have like this very clear separation between okay, these are the indies, these are the non-indies. If you are an indie, then you cannot work with a publisher. I don't know. I guess indie stands for a lot of good stuff, particularly in an industry which is kind of full of first-person shooters and very gender stereotypical games, lots of sexist stuff. I'm actually kind of happy to, like, the indie, in many cases at least, stands for something a bit more mature, and I really like that, but I also think it's somewhat silly to have like this, we're indies, we're better than... I have very mixed feelings about it.
My name is James Whitehead, and I'm indie.
My name is Wedin, and I am indie.
My name is Kerry Fraser-Robinson, and I am indie.
I am Christopher Carver, and I am indie.
My name is Niklas Nygren, and I'm indie.
So my name is Khang and I am indie.